Hey, what's up everyone? It's Citlalli with Nicantlaca Women Warriors, and today I come with you with my very second Q&A video. I'm going to be looking down because I have the questions on my laptop, and just to begin, some of the general questions I received. I started my decolonization process when I was about 15, going to be 16 years old, in Huntington Park High School. One of the clubs at my high school was CMEC, Chicano Mexicano Mexican Empowerment Committee. And at that time, I didn't know my history. I was a hardcore feminist. I was vegan. I was writing poetry about, racism and sexism. But I never knew who I was. I didn't feel connected with the whiteness of American history. I didn't feel connected with that whole aura of whiteness. I was attracted to Mexican flag and the Aztec dancing and all that, and I didn't understand why. Like, why did I feel so connected to that, and yet I wasn't told who I was in any of my history courses. And so when I met that club, it was a club about decolonization. It completely, it changed my life. It completely changed my life. So that's what started my journey of decolonization. For you guys who don't know, decolonization is basically a conscious effort to combat all the pro-white supremacist European notions, ideologies, philosophies, culture, norms that kind of govern our lives as Indigenous people. And so in the process of decolonization, you're trying to search who you are, and you're doing that among layers and layers and layers of genocide, of lies, of systematic destruction of our Indigenous knowledge. And what I'm talking about, all Indigenous people of the world can relate to this, because we've all have been victims of this process of white supremacy and genocide. And so that process, that journey is, in my view, has really changed me. It's not something that you graduate from. It's not something that, okay, you're done, there you go, you're not colonized anymore. It's not, because it's such a daily active force that works against our people, that works against our population, our education, our culture, our identity. And if you're welcome to check out the rest of my videos that talk about that, talk about identity, talk about genocide, and talk about the fact that we don't even understand, or we don't even know that we're Indigenous because of these colonial terms of Hispanic and Latino, raza and mestizo. All of these terms are constructed from the colonial experience, and they were termed and coined by the colonizer. And so in essence, the colonizer has invaded us for 5 centuries, killed 95% of our population through violence, through force, through biological warfare, and they have terrorized our communities. And so those of us who survived their system of genocide are branded colonial terms as a way to disconnect us from who we are, as a way to make us bow down to white supremacy and feel as if we're foreigners on our own land. And so if you understand and you look at the dynamics of this, you understand that identity is power, right? And so if we are being forced to identify with Europe and identities of Europe, then that means that we're being forced to surrender our identity as Indigenous people, as a people of this land. And whatever language or culture or ethnic group that you belong to as an Indigenous person, once we surrender that terminology, those terms, those concepts that honor our ancestors and honor our own ancient connection to this land, it makes it easier for white supremacy to thrive on us, to exploit our resources, to exploit our labor, and to exploit and continue occupying our land. I know that was a lot. But anyway, like I said, this is my second Q&A, and I want to share with you some of the questions I received. And for those of you who participated and sending me your questions, I want to say Tlazokamati. That means thank you in Nahuatl, one of the many languages of our continent. So I want to start off with, a brother sent me this question. He says, how do you feel about non-Mexican natives using the term Nicantlaca or learning from the brothers and sisters of the Mexica Empire? Well, first of all, I completely welcome all people that are not of Mexican descent to use the term Nicantlaca, because that is the vision behind the concept of Nicantlaca. The vision of Nicantlaca is taken from the Nahuatl language, and this particular translation of "we people here" actually denotes when, and this is, you can find this in 15th, 16th century primary documents where the Spaniards were translating, right? Nahuatl. And so Nicantlaca, they always referenced it to be the natural people of this land, or New Spain, the indigenous people of New Spain. And so if we take that concept and we expand it, right, and we say, you know what, let's all take this concept as indigenous people and let's embrace it as the beginning point, right? And again, I welcome people to use the term Nicantlaca. I think it really helps alleviate that confusion and that tension, because a lot of our people are like, well, I'm not Mexican, like I'm from Nicaragua, or I'm Salvadorian, or whatever. And so what we have to understand is that those nationalities came through the process of colonialism, right? And in my studies, that's what I am drawing the conclusion, is that nationalism was birthed by white supremacy. Once Europeans and all of their diverse groups, they invaded our lands, they killed our population. And when it was time to, develop and create their power on our continent, they started to develop different entities. And those different entities were meant to establish their individual power disconnected from their motherland, whether it was Great Britain, British, or it was Spain. And so it's important to understand that. It's important to understand that when we cling on to national identities like Mexican or Salvadorian, that we're honoring that national genocidal experience. And so in part of decolonization, the term Nicantlaca, I welcome, I hope other people feel comfortable using this. A lot of us in this colonial process, we lost our connection to who we are, right? A lot of us cannot trace back a specific indigenous regions that we come from. Because another thing you have to understand is that through the process of genocide, our people were displaced. You had Mayans that ended up going to Jamaica. You have indigenous people from the north being enslaved in the south, and are just completely displacing and disrespecting our ancestral connections. And so when we're trying to find who we are, I think the concept of Nicantlaca really answers that need and really gives us that beginning point where we can say, I know I'm not fucking Hispanic, I'm not a Latina, I'm not Latinx, I'm not una raza mestiza, I am Nicantlaca. And figure it out from there, start digging into your history, start digging into your past. But it gives us a non-European foundation on which you can stand on and reclaim who you are and reclaim your identity. And after that, there's still work to do. It's not like saying, oh, you're Nicantlaca, that's it, everything's over with. No, but it offers the counter. It offers a resistance to the colonial terms like Hispanic and Latino, raza mestizo. So, brother, I welcome people. I think I love to hear other people call themselves Nicantlaca. And I think it creates a very beautiful pan-indigenous identity. And again, not to diminish any other of the languages of our people or any other cultures of our people, I think it's a beginning point. Like I said, we have to start somewhere. And I think we all, as we're studying, as we're decolonizing, and you happen to find your particular region, your particular language that is not Nahuatl, embrace it. Let's find concepts in those languages and those ideas that represent who we are. The second part of his question is, how do you feel about brothers and sisters learning from the Mexica Empire? Again, the Mexica Empire, there is so much known about the Mexica civilization. There's so much because at the time of the Spanish invasion, in particular to the Valley of Mexico, it was a dominant culture. It was a dominant city, right? It was a dominant quote unquote empire. And so it's really important to realize, though, that the Mexica civilization was just established in 1325. The invasion was in 1519, 1521. So we have to keep that in mind. It wasn't even 200 years old. And so what we have to understand as well is that the Mexica civilization was basically, a continuation of all of the civilizations that were there prior to the Mexica civilization being established. And I think a lot of people lose that. And when we're saying Mexica civilization, Mexica culture, it is representative of a lot of cultures, because if you study Mexico Tenochtitlan, which was the capital of Mexica, you will see that within the city, it was a metropolis. There were sections of the city that were dedicated to different aspects of different cultures of what is known as Mesoamerica. And so the Mexica, when they arrived in the Valley of Mexico, they were latecomers into what was already established, into where the Toltec region was, the Cholultecas, the Tlaxcaltecas. There was already a lot of movement, a lot of cultures, a lot of cities, a lot of civilizations that were there. So what they did was, when they arrived, they started learning from different ones. They started picking up strengths and establishing Mexico Tenochtitlan, which is really important. And I think a lot of people get lost in that. And yeah, like I can say that I'm very Mexica centric, but that's because that was my introduction to our history. And as a history major, I'm in grad school now. I focus on the Mexica civilization because I understand it to be a continuation of the various civilizations that were there. So I see it more of a metropolis culture, metropolis civilization, in which we can study other cultures as well. And again, it gives us a very good documented, established culture. A lot has been written in the Mexica. A lot of primary sources can be found in the Mexica. And again, not that the Mexica was like the best and that's it, but again, it was very new into becoming a city. It was not even 200 years old when the Spanish invaded. So it's really important to keep that in mind. Next question. Do you listen to corridos? And is it still righteous if you do? Well, okay, so I think this is a great question, by the way. And I'll say that, yeah, I do listen to corridos. Like I listen to rap music. I listen to a lot of music. I absolutely love music. I actually have songs that I did on YouTube. I'm not professional at all. Like, you don't want to hear me singing, okay? But I have like little rap songs and stuff like that. I think everything we have to be very mindful of, right? Just like you listen to rap music and corridos, there's a lot of violence. There's a lot of misogyny in there. But at the end of the day, I guess it represents the times that we live in. So I think, yeah, I guess it's my guilty pleasure. My guilty pleasure is listening to hip hop music, rap music, corridos. Like I said, I love dancing. I dance cumbia, dance bachata, dance punta. I love all this. Listening to corridos or listening to, rap music or gangster rap, whatever they call it, I don't think it makes you less righteous. I think so long as in your life you're doing the best that you can for your people and you're not caught up in doing the actions of those songs, right? Like, I don't know, the drugs and the violation of women and cutting off of heads. And I think there's a difference between listening to it for entertainment and, yeah, let's be mindful of the damage that a lot of this has caused our communities. But I don't judge people. I don't go saying, oh, you're not conscious because you're listening to corridos, or you're not down, you're not decolonized because you're listening to rap. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's very sad that a lot of people in our community, they go policing, like the decolonization police. Like, we're all at different levels and we're all going to decolonize at our own pace. This isn't a competition, and I think it's important. I think this question is awesome because it lets me speak to that, right? Because I went through that. Like, I'm not perfect, believe me, especially when I started my decolonization journey. Like, I was like straight living off of like daily life of the Aztecs, and I was like trying to mimic that life that I was studying about, right? And I didn't understand that it wasn't my job to go around correcting our people, trying to check them and be like, you're not decolonized. Like, I'm not lying. Like, I went through that shit, right? But as I've matured, as I've gained more wisdom, hopefully I'll keep gaining more, you just realize that none of us are free, right, from these impacts of colonization. And instead of us using this knowledge to go around dissing our people and judging our people, that is our responsibility. This knowledge, this process of decolonization, it's really a responsibility. It should make you more accountable. It should make you feel more responsible to go into our communities and share, not to use it to damage, not to use it to put down a brother and sister because, oh, they're listening to corridos or they're listening to rap. Like, that's the level of culture that we're in. And yeah, like I said, I do listen to corridos. I do listen to rap music. And yeah, like, if people are gonna judge me for that, then so be it. But that's what I do. It's my guilty pleasure, and I'm not ashamed of it. Like, I know what role it plays, and at the same time, I understand that we have to understand where we're at as a people. And like I said, I'm working on a corrido right now. I'm working a corrido talking about Zapata and decolonization. I have a few rap songs out here where I use YG's beat, and I've used Kendrick Lamar's beat. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to bring this message to our people at all levels. And I think the more we love our people, the more we love ourselves, the more we want to reach out, and the more we want to make this message accessible. So I hope that answers that question. Next question. How do you balance constant decolonization and having fun living carefree for the moment? This is a great question, and I think it goes into what I was talking about. Decolonization, it's a daily process. It's not something that, and it does happen. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, it does happen. Like, a lot of the times, especially at the very beginning, when you're decolonizing, you're like, okay, I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna stay away from this, and you isolate yourself. You isolate yourself from your community, right? Like, I can speak for myself on this, right? Like, when I started decolonizing, like, I wanted everyone to stop saying Hispanic or Latino. I wanted everyone to, like, be down and decolonizing, and I was very, very dogmatic and fucking, like, I was fucking annoying, and I think as I've gotten older, I'm just realizing, like, this is hard, like, it's been 5 centuries of this colonization, of the very strategic, embedded way. And you have to understand, this system of white supremacy, each year it gets more sophisticated. Each year it gets more embedded into our culture. And so it's easier to normalize it. It's easier to just accept it and just say, like, oh yeah, what's the demise? And, what can we do now? That happened in the past. Like, it is what it is. Like, it's so easy to start falling to those sentiments because it's hard, and I think it's important, like, with myself, like, I love going to family parties. I love dancing at quinceañeras. I love listening to banda. I love live music. I love listening to punta. I love enjoying my family. I love enjoying my friends. And I think in this process of decolonization, it's a journey, right? And we all take our journey differently depending how comfortable you are. And with me, again, I've been doing this for 21 years. So initially, I would shut myself down. I wouldn't participate in nothing. I wouldn't go to anything having to do with 4th of July, Independence Day, Thanksgiving, and all that. And so then I started realizing, the more I isolate myself from that, I am missing opportunities of educating my cousins, my aunts and uncles. And unfortunately, in this very capitalist, very industrial culture of white supremacy, these are the moments we have with our family. These are the moments we have to chill and talk and catch up. And yeah, it's sad that they're under these European holidays and really fucked up, like, white supremacist holidays. But I think it's important to reclaim them. Let's reclaim our time, Let's reclaim that family environment, those moments, right? Because most likely we all have those days off. Most likely, the tia's gonna make a carne asada, and I think it's a really good opportunity for us that are decolonizing to take it as an opportunity of a teaching moment. Let's take this opportunity to talk about it. Let's take this opportunity to teach, to share, to be like, you know what, I'm not down with this. And I've had that experience, where my family were like, what's up? Like, why don't you eat turkey on Thanksgiving or whatever? And I tell them, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. I don't do this. I don't do that. I don't do Christmas. I don't do this. And so instead of me now not going or not doing those things, I go, but they still understand who I am, and I'm not imposing on them and they're not imposing on me. And I think it's beautiful because ultimately I'm very conscious and they know and I know. And it's about reclaiming, like I said, we need to use these moments, these little holidays, to turn them around and to embrace them and to try to address it, because this whole thing about, oh, it's the day that we show love, it's the day we show gratitude, it's the day we do this. Like, I think it's really inviting for us, especially we're decolonizing, to find those ceremonies, to find indigenous traditions, or tell our family, right? Like, I love telling my cousins, you know where the piñata comes from, like when we're at a little kid's birthday party, or we're talking about tamales, or just like, or quinceañeras. Like, quinceañeras were hijacked, they were our culture, that was part of our tradition, and they were completely taken over by Europeans and Hispanicized and turned into complete European tradition. But all of these moments are teachable moments, and all of these moments are moments that obviously you don't want to miss out on your family. You don't want to miss out, because believe me, I went through that, and you become very, very depressed. You become very resentful. You get very angry, and you know what? Your family, they don't know what's up. Like, it's not their fault, just like we can't be making those harsh judgments, because that was us as well. Like, and I think it's really important, and if I can speak to this, is don't ever forget your own ignorance. Don't ever forget when you were completely, blind to being colonized, completely blind to being indigenous. And I think constantly remembering that and being mindful of your own ignorance really helps us in approaching our community, especially our blood relatives, and it's funny because now, like, this like trips me out, right? Like, my uncle, my dad's brother, my dad passed when I was real young. Like, this one time, like, I was on Facebook and I was like, what the hell? Like, someone has shared one of my videos, right? Like, my YouTube videos. And then I look at it and it's my uncle, and he's like, ay, mi sobrina, escúchenla, está hablando de la historia. I kid you not. I was like, oh, I wanted to cry. I was like, I had no idea. My uncle knew what's up with me with that. Like I said, I really don't go imposing it. My family know what I do. But I felt so, like, happy. I felt like, ooh, I'm getting emotional. I felt like, you know what? Like, we need to be open to our family. We need to be open to their growth as well. We need to be open to their decolonization, because you never know, and that's why I think it's really important to begin the process and approaching decolonization, first of all, with a lot of compassion. You have to have a lot of compassion for yourself. You have to really be mindful of all the damage of the multi-generational layer upon layer of trauma that we are surviving on a daily basis. And I think that decolonization will be very impactful and much more powerful if we keep that compassion for ourselves. And number one, you have to love yourself in this process, like I said, because like I said, I was very dogmatic at the very beginning. I was horrible. Me and a boyfriend had like competitions. It was very competitive and it was horrible. But yeah, I think it's really important to maintain conscience of that, and to remind yourself of your own ignorance, remind yourself of what you went through. And so I think it's important to not lose that focus. Don't lose the compassion to yourself, because it's a really hard process. It's really exhausting, and you don't want to add more to that. You don't want to add more stress. You don't want to add more anxiety to it. Just be open for people, be open to your family. It doesn't mean that you water down who you are. It just means that you make yourself more accessible and you make yourself more present in the moment, because at the end of the day, life is sacred, and we're in this process of decolonization. But also, you don't want to miss out on those life moments. You don't want to miss out on your little cousin's birthday, So just use those moments and make them yours. Make them reflect your people. Make them reclaim your culture, reclaim your beauty. And like I said, that's something that I try to do, whether it's for a birthday or a baby shower or whatever. I always try to make it indigenous. I always try to make it reflect who we are, right? Like for my wedding, I don't know if you guys know, but I'm married, recently married, and I wanted my ceremony to reflect who we are, right, as a people. And it was beautiful because a lot of people were like, wow, I've never seen a ceremony like that. It was so beautiful. And yeah, it had nothing to do with Catholicism, had nothing to do with Christianity. I did my best to research and find ways that would honor our ancestors, and the same way honor our love that we have for each other, and honor this process, right? This awakening of decolonization. So anyway, I know I spoke a lot on it, but I wanted to address those questions. And I think it's important to, again, like I said, to be open to it. The last question I'm going to answer, hang on. It says, what do you tell young Chicanas who are aspiring to go to college? Okay, so this will be my last question that I'll answer. And basically, for all you young Chicanas that want to go to college, for all you, the young Indigenous sisters out there and brothers, believe in yourself and know that you belong there as much as anybody, and that this system is trying and has been trying to keep us away from these circles and these spaces. And you have to take ownership of that. You have to get in there and you have to reclaim it. And you have to create those spaces, because for a long time we were kept away from these spaces. We were systematically kept away, like seriously, like it was all intentional. And so with myself, I'm in grad school. I went to community college, got my bachelor's, then I'm now in grad school. I think it's hard because you're trying to educate yourself, and you're being mindful of these layers of colonialism, because they don't end and it doesn't get easier. We think that colonization only happens K through 12 and after that you're good. Like, no, it doesn't happen like that. In college, it gets more sophisticated because white supremacy and these scholars and these historians, they continue to carry on white supremacist tendencies and white supremacist approaches. So that doesn't end. So if anything, I really welcome you to embrace the journey and to remember that you are your ancestors, that you're carrying on their legacy, and you belong there. You belong there. Sometimes, I know I felt like that. Like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, I don't understand these words. Like, I should know these words by now. Like, there's a lot of insecurities, but I think the more of us that are there and that take over these spaces and that are proud and that say, no, I belong here. This is my land. I'm going to be here. I'm going to go back to my community and teach the truth and really make it a positive and constructive and liberating experience. I think it's important. So for you, for the young ones out there who are doubting yourselves and who are saying, I don't know if I can do this, by all means, this is your opportunity. We have survived so much shit. This is your time to take ownership, because you deserve that opportunity. You deserve that degree. And at the same time, as you're there in this process of education, take ownership, embrace it, make it work for you, represent, speak your mind, say what you have to say. Don't shrink yourself. Don't belittle yourself. Don't keep diminishing yourself to make anyone feel any more comfortable. So that's the last question I'm going to answer. I'm going to try to do more Q&As more often. Now I just started my 4th semester of grad school, so I'm really trying to get as many videos out there as possible. So for those of you who sent me a question and I didn't get to it, I will include that in my next video. I want to thank all of you for participating with me, for supporting me, for showing me love and support for all of these years. I really, 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 really appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, I have an Instagram page, Nicantelaka Women Warrior. I have a Facebook page, and I'll have all the links underneath this video. And until the next time, stay beautiful, decolonize, and don't forget that you're on your own land. Nos vemos al rato. Tlaxcamati. Thank you.